Would you be the jerk for abandoning your own mom at the airport? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for telling neighbor to go through insurance? My car slipped on black ice and I hit my neighbor's mailbox. I gave her my insurance info. She said my insurance wanted her to pay up front and she didn't have the money. I said I would buy the mailboxes and pay my handyman to put them in, but it would be after the first of the year because the mailbox wouldn't be in until December 29th and he had family plans. On December 29th, she called me, but I couldn't answer because my daughter was sick. I texted my handyman and asked for him to arrange what day he could come and install. He told her he had the mailbox and arranged for Friday the 2nd to install when he was back in town. On December 31st, she texted me a sarcastic text message that I didn't care. I told her my daughter ended up in the hospital and I couldn't return her call, which is why my handyman reached out to arrange a day and time. She said, out of respect, I should have called her back, that I should be ashamed of myself and be more apologetic. I've already had 2 30-minute calls where I profusely apologized. I told her to go through my insurance if I wasn't doing it fast enough. She then sent this text. And you are the homeowner that plowed over my mailbox. So completely disrespectful and sinful. You should be ashamed and embarrassed and apologetic. Call handyman? You are pathetic. I then sent this and blocked her. I'm returning the mailbox, go through insurance, you have the info. I didn't have to buy them and pay handyman to put them in. He told you that he would be there on Friday and I told you the same thing. That obviously isn't good enough, so go through insurance. Am I the jerk for making her go through insurance after she started calling me names? Edit to add info. Her mailbox is still usable and she is still getting mail, it just had a crack. She picked the mailbox and it would arrive December 29th. She knew that but wanted that specific mailbox. I sent the handyman over to fix her leaky sink as an I'm sorry. I've also dropped off treats and homemade bread as an I'm sorry. I've answered all of her calls except the December 29th call. I use that iPhone feature where you can text and the phone will tell the person calling why you can't answer. I said, my daughter is sick. Handyman will reach out to schedule. He reached out and scheduled for January 2nd. She texted on December 31st that I should have called her personally and that I should be ashamed. Told her my daughter ended up in the hospital with RSV and I thought it was resolved because she had a date the handyman was coming. She texted back, okay, you're pathetic. Then she kept going that I was sinful. Told her to go through insurance. One more edit. I'm a female with absolutely no tools. I pay the handyman to fix things. If I knew how to do it, I would have done it. But I've learned I make way more working my job and paying someone to do it right the first time is more cost effective. Update, someone advised that I contact my insurance company to see if she made a claim. She did weeks ago and said she would be turning in receipts. My handyman reached out and asked if he could buy the mailbox from me since it was a nice one instead of me having to return it. I gave it to him for the inconvenience of his schedule being canceled. While we were talking, he said she had requested a copy of receipts even though I was paying him directly. Also, I already had a claim open because there was damage to my car, so the deductible has to be paid anyway. This won't cost me extra and I have accident forgiveness. And one less neighbor I have to wave to. I mean, to be fair, I think as long as they go through the insurance, it should be covered, right? I think in the grand scheme of things, if there's one thing a car insurance company would be probably more than happy to pay for, it would be the cost of a replacement mailbox. That said, is anybody else actually frustrated at how hard OP's making it out to be to put a mailbox in? I've had people do a hit and run on my own mailbox before. You take the mailbox out there with a shovel, you stick it in a hole in the ground, and then you push the dirt back around it. Ready to Rumble commented, I work in insurance and do this for a living. She absolutely 100% does not have to pay for the mailbox up front. No one told her that. She has to get a quote and submit it to the insurance and they will pay. If you do pay her, don't hand her cash or she might still try to claim on insurance and lie and say you didn't pay. Pay on Venmo or something traceable and put a note for payment purpose. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, am I the jerk for being rude to a guest I didn't even invite? I, 28-year-old female, live with my grandma. She doesn't live with me because of any health issues. We genuinely prefer living together rather than being separated. I really enjoy living with her. She's kind, never crosses boundaries, and we're really close. We laugh and joke around a lot. She braids my hair while I gossip about boys or my day at work, and she sometimes cooks my favorite meals when I'm feeling upset. Our living situation was peaceful and enjoyable. This started at my cousin's wedding. My sister, my grandma, and I were invited. It was a very traditional wedding and honestly kind of cute. But the after party was a hot mess. Everyone was dancing, it was loud, and I was already exhausted from the wedding. There was a weird tradition where the bride's family dances while everyone claps, then the groom's family does the same. Since I'm family of the groom, I was asked to dance. I didn't want to. I was tired and my dress was really tight, but my grandma convinced me to, so I did. I don't think I did that bad, but after it was over and I sat back down, an older woman I didn't even know turned her head, looked me up and down and said, "You don't dance that often, do you?" It was really rude and judgmental. I laughed it off to avoid starting drama, then I told my sister and she told me to ignore it, and I did. What I didn't expect was that after the wedding, my grandma invited this same woman to come home with us. At first, I assumed it was just a ride, or that she would stay for the night and leave. When we got home, I excused myself and went straight to sleep while she talked to my grandma. The next morning, she was still there. I left for work. When I came back, she was still there. I finally pulled my grandma aside and asked what was going on. She told me that this woman was a guest and would be staying for a couple of days. I was upset because I was never asked or even informed beforehand. This is my house, and I feel like I deserve a say in who stays here. It has now been 8 long days, and she is still here. She constantly inserts herself into my personal life and gives unsolicited opinions. If I complain about cramps, she tells me maybe I should work out more. If I'm crying to grandma about something stressful that happened at work, she jumps in and tells me to suck it up and stop crying because I'm an adult. I never ask her for advice or opinions, she just butts in and says whatever she wants. To be clear, I've not been rude to her. I don't argue with her. I don't snap. I've only vented privately to my grandma, sister, and boyfriend about how uncomfortable and frustrated I feel. Instead of understanding, they tell me I'm being a jerk and that I'm rude, which feels insane to me because all I've done is express how bothered I am by someone overstaying in my home and disrespecting me repeatedly. Also, I'm not from the USA, so some things may sound weird to you if you're from there, and English is my second language, so do correct me if I said something wrong. I'd like to know who this actual lady is in relation to OP. Is it just a family member from the other side of the family? Basically somebody that is a total and complete stranger, not only to you, but likely to your grandma as well? I don't know if it's like a cultural thing where you're just supposed to accept that elders sometimes swing by and stay for a while. But personally, I think it's pretty valid that OP's frustrated about this person staying in their home for over a week when they were never asked or even had a chance to approve of it. As far as everything else OP described, Grandma sounds awesome, but does this alone not start to give you at least a little bit of pause about whether or not Grandma should stay there for long term? At least there needs to be an understanding of what is and isn't acceptable. Spatzelchick commented, "What exactly is the relationship between this woman and your grandmother? Is she truly an old friend, or did she just meet at the wedding and invite herself?" I ask because I've had 2 instances where random women have inserted themselves into an elderly woman's lives with flattery and friendship and then take advantage of them. Free room and board? Sounds familiar. And just a small loan. I hate to think about what information they can be taking from your grandma. Our next story is, would I be the jerk if I told my son's school it is their responsibility to make sure they have the right child? I have twin sons, aged 11, who are not identical but who do look similar. Their older sister looks pretty similar to them too. James is taller and slightly more slender in the face. Ben is more freckly and is noticeably paler. They have the same eyes and hair color, but James has longer hair and his is more wavy than Ben's. James tends to be very neat and tidy, while Ben is somehow always covered in ink and/or paint. In school, they're in uniform, so they're dressed identically. Classes are split by ability, but their scores are close enough to each other that they're in the same groups for everything, though they have different friendship groups and different hobbies. Both go to chess club, though that is the only club or sport they have in common, and most of the time, they don't interact much in school and each does their own thing. They have, however, when asked, told me that they do sometimes get called the wrong name still, even though they've been there since September. Both boys have permission to take medication in school due to seasonal allergies and eczema. Antihistamines and eczema cream is stored in school for the boys to access as and when needed. They use different medication and creams, which is personal preference. One has liquid and one has tablets, and they use different creams as they find different ones helpful. I have sent in the permission slips and meds and left it at that. I got an email over the holiday regarding the medication. It states the instances of the boys being mixed up are not reducing as they look so similar, and the medical officer, secondary schools in the UK do not have a school nurse, is concerned the wrong child will be given the wrong medication. As such, she has asked me to ensure that the boys are easy to distinguish going forwards. My initial reaction is absolutely not. It is up to the person administering the medication to ensure that they are giving it to the right person, and that can easily be done by asking the child what his name is. They are 11 years old. They are more than capable of giving the right name and have no interest at all in swapping places for the sake of getting each other's meds. I do understand the concern in terms of making sure the right medication is given to the right child, but the responsibility for that lies solely with the school while they are in care of the school. And I will not be sending them back after the holiday looking in any way easy to distinguish. Would I be the jerk if I told the school it was their responsibility to make sure they have the right child, not mine? So here's my question. What does the school actually expect OP to do? Give the kids clearly different haircuts? Make one kid wear a colored wristband or something? Like, what kind of ridiculous solution were they trying to expect OP to just implement? OP, if you could please just give one kid, like, I don't know, a buzz cut and the other one, like, medium length hair, that would be great. That way we won't screw up giving them medication. TechBear72 commented, "You would not be the jerk, but phrase it as, the way to tell them apart is to ask their name and they will respond. Please let me know if you need my help any further with this," and leave it at that to show them how to do this rather than just saying no, which the school might see as obstructionist. They'll see you as sarcastic, of course, but they do deserve the sharp response here. Our next story is, am I the jerk for arguing with my friend at her birthday party after she intentionally separated me from my boyfriend? I, 21-year-old female, have been dating my boyfriend, 22-year-old male, for almost 2 years. We're very solid, live together, and usually attend events as a couple. I've never had any serious issues with my friend, 21-year-old female, who I've known since high school. My friend threw herself a big 21st birthday party at a rented venue. She invited around 30 people, and I RSVP'd yes for both me and my boyfriend weeks in advance. When we arrived, there were assigned tables. I was seated at a table with my friend and her close friends, while my boyfriend was placed at a completely different table across the room with people he doesn't know. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. I pulled my friend aside and asked about it, and she told me it was intentional. She said she didn't want couples attached at the hip and wanted people to branch out. That sounded fine until I looked around and realized that literally every other couple, including people who had only been dating for a few months, were seated together. When I pointed this out, she admitted she thought my boyfriend would kill the vibe and said I would be more fun without him around. For context, he is quiet but extremely polite and has never caused any problems at any event. My boyfriend was clearly uncomfortable once he realized everyone else was seated with their partners except him. He tried to brush it off, but I could tell he was embarrassed and confused. I told my friend that deliberately separating us while seating everyone else with their partners was hurtful and unnecessary. Alone with her comments about him not being fun, she rolled her eyes and told me it was her birthday and I was being dramatic. At that point, I decided not to make a scene, so we stuck around for the rest of the party, but I was kind of more quiet the rest of the night than usual. Since then, my friend has been blowing up my phone saying I ruined her birthday, embarrassed her, and made everything about my relationship. Some mutual friends agree with her and say that I should have just stayed quiet for the sake of the party, while others think that what she did was mean and intentional. I don't really think I caused that much of a scene, but it is her birthday after all, so I feel bad if other people noticed. I genuinely didn't want to cause drama, but I also didn't want to ignore the issue and leave my boyfriend feeling uncomfortable. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP's the jerk at all. Honestly, I probably wouldn't want to cause a scene if I were in her shoes either, but I kind of also would want to cause a scene. Honestly, if I were in OP's shoes, I think in that moment I would have taken a long, hard look, especially if I saw my boyfriend was uncomfortable, at just straight up getting them and leaving the party altogether. Can't ruin it if I'm not there. Our Muscle 3273 commented, "You are the jerk. Not for the argument, you're the jerk for staying and leaving your boyfriend out there." OP replied, "We ended up spending most of the night in the dancing area, my friends and him included, so he was around me. I didn't abandon him, but we were definitely uncomfortable together. I think part of the reason my friend is accusing me of ruining the party is because I kept him around us anyways rather than ignoring him at the table." Our next story is, am I the jerk for threatening to make my friend homeless? My husband and I have 4 kids, Eloise, 12, Margot, 9, Mateo, 7, and James, 4. Eloise and Mateo were adopted, and Margot and James are our biological children. Eloise has special needs. She has autism, hearing loss in both ears, and a few other diagnoses. She receives daily PT, OT, and speech therapy at school. Eloise's biological aunt Julia is heavily involved in Eloise's life. She picks Eloise up from school 2 days a week and takes her to the trampoline park or her favorite indoor playground or swimming. Eloise also spends 1 night a week at Julia's house, and Julia has a key to our house, so she can drop in and see Eloise whenever she's available. Julia also brings Eloise lots and lots of gifts. They're always either clothes that meet her sensory needs and current interests, toys that manage to sneak PT and OT into play, toys for sensory play, or tools for self-regulation, coloring books, new headphones, new water bottles, and chewable toys. She usually brings something for the other kids, but it's typically much smaller, like a smaller coloring book and a pack of crayons, a small box of Play-Doh, or a theater box of candy for each kid. One of my friends, Alexa, and her 3 kids, 10-year-old female, 6-year-old male, and 5-year-old male, are living with us for 6 months while Alexa gets back on her feet following a divorce. We split childcare for everyone but Eloise relatively evenly and agreed that the kids would be treated equally. Julia continues to visit Eloise and bring her new clothes and toys, plus small gifts for the other kids, including Alexa's kids. But the differences in the gifts and the amount of attention given to Eloise has been bothering Alexa. She asked me to stop Julia from bringing Eloise such extravagant gifts, taking her out without the other kids, and take back her house so she can't visit as often. I told her that Julia is family, and I don't plan to change anything about her visits. Alexa then went to Julia and told her to stop taking Eloise out without the other kids, stop bringing all of these expensive gifts without getting equal ones for the other kids, and suggested that Eloise would be happier if they spent more time at Julia's house. Julia went to me and told me everything Alexa said. When Alexa confirmed everything, I told her that if she pulled this crap again, she will be out of my house and I will personally drop her kids off to her ex-husband. Alexa has profusely apologized, but she's upset that I'm threatening to make her homeless and take her kids away. My husband thinks I might have been a little harsh, but I wanted to know if I was the jerk. First of all, not related to the story, I gotta be honest, I had the hardest time reading this story because I have the smart device. I should have just gone and replaced the name altogether or something. Every time I read that word, I kept hearing, "I'm sorry, I can't help you with that." For all I know, Amazon has now documented the fact that apparently I'm threatening to make someone homeless. That said, OP's not the jerk. Their friend, A, has been staying with them for half a year at this point. That kind of kindness and generosity should not be underestimated, and it seems to be very underestimated right now. Nanny Live commented, "Not the jerk. I'm old and I've seen a lot of helping a divorced friend out by letting her move in situations go very badly. Get her out of your house. The fact that your husband sided with her in this is not a good sign, and she's already proven that she'll go behind your back and against your stated wishes to try to manage your household to her liking. Her being homeless is not your doing. She made her life choices. Now you have to do them the same." Our next story is, am I the jerk for leaving my mom at the airport with no ticket and no plan? This still weighs on me. Some background, my mom was abusive growing up. It got bad enough that at 12, I left home through the courts and moved in with my dad. That decision fractured our family. On the court paperwork under name of child, she wrote something like, "I have no son." I've carried that with me ever since. I had little contact with her after that. Briefly at 17, again in my early 20s, and not consistently until much later. I'm now almost 40. I spent over 20 years drinking heavily and finally got sober in 2018, which is when I made an effort to reconnect with my family, including my mom. She's closer to 70 now and has zero contact with 2 of her 3 kids. Reconnecting wasn't easy. When I asked if she ever reflected on the abuse, she told me I was an adult and needed to let it go already. That was a turning point. I realized any forgiveness would be one-sided. If I wanted peace, it was on me. Since then, our relationship has been rocky but present. We've had family reunions and even traveled overseas together for 3 weeks. We argue often, usually over small things, but we stayed in contact until this. Last summer, I invited her to my city to see a band she's loved since I was young. The plan was simple. She would arrive on Wednesday, we would go to the concert on Thursday, she would fly out to visit my sisters on Friday, and I would leave early Saturday for my own trip. She agreed. When she arrived, she mentioned she had only brought a one-way ticket and would book the Friday flight later. That made me uneasy, and I reminded her several times to make sure it was booked. I thought I was clear in my wording and tone that I didn't want anyone staying in my house while I was gone. Friday came, the concert was fine. Then she told me she still hadn't bought a plane ticket, and now, with prices having gone up, she planned to stay a few extra days while I was away. I told her plainly, "I'm leaving at 5 a.m. tomorrow. You need to get on that plane." I even offered to cover the extra cost. She refused and invited herself to stay at my place. That's when I said clearly that I wasn't comfortable with anyone staying in my home while I wasn't there. She accused me of not trusting her and said she was my mother. I said it wasn't about trust. I just didn't want anyone in my house. The argument escalated. Finally, she said, "Fine, take me to the airport." I think she expected me to cave. I didn't. I packed the car, grabbed my daughter, and drove her to the airport in silence. When we arrived, it felt like a standoff, like she was waiting for me to say, "Never mind, don't go." I didn't. I took her bag out, set it on the curb, and told her, "If you can't find a ticket, let me know. I can help you pay for a hotel." Then I left. Months later, I'm still thinking about it. I don't think I stranded my mom with no options. I offered to cover the cost of the flight and hotel, but I did leave her at the airport knowing she hadn't booked a ticket. Am I the jerk? Yeah, no, OP's not the jerk. Honestly, when I was reading this story, as soon as it got to the moment of, "You're an adult, you need to let it go already," I was like, why didn't OP cut them off at that point? Is it really worth it at that point to keep a relationship with this person because there's still like some residual glue that can hold that label of mom stuck to her head? I mean, the adhesive on that mom label is so weak it's fallen off a few times, and she just keeps slapping it on back up there. Like she told OP, I think OP needed to let it go, it being that relationship, way sooner. Comeback321 commented, "Do you realize, OP, that you just explained how her abuse and manipulation is continuing? This was the abuse cycle you just typed out, and you're still carrying it since it's hurting you so much. She's never once accepted accountability. You can forgive, but you don't have to accept. If she makes you feel bad about your boundaries, that's someone that doesn't need to be let in. She can wave at you from the outside, or stomp on by in a tantrum, but stop letting her in." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for refusing to forgive a friend for stealing from me even though she's struggling? I, 35-year-old female, collect perfume. I'm also a recovering alcoholic, as is everyone in this story. My ex-friend Bethany, 30-year-old female, also loves perfume. We met in a recovery group and bonded over trading fragrance samples. I own some scents that she loves but can't afford. Over the years, she's asked if I would mind decanting a few for her, and because scents expire and there's a limit to how much you can reasonably use at a time, in all but one case, I happily filled up travel atomizers for free. The exception is Le Labo's The Noir 29. I bought a bottle to mark my first 6 months of sobriety, and it has a powerful association with that achievement for me. When she asked for a sample, I said she could get them for free at Bloomingdale's, but because of the emotional significance of my bottle, I wanted it to last as long as possible. Bethany accused me of gatekeeping and being insecure about anyone else smelling like me. I snapped back that if that were the case, I wouldn't have shared every other scent I own with her. Later, she apologized. I accepted and things went back to normal until I invited her and a few friends over for a movie night. When I walked into my bedroom and smelled TN29, I immediately suspected Bethany had used it, but had no proof, so I held my tongue. Next time we met up, I smelled it on her. I asked if she bought a bottle, but she said she got a sample like I suggested. Something about the way she said it and the look on her face made me sure she was wearing my perfume. I pulled away and didn't have her over again until Halloween, when I had all of our mutual friends over and couldn't exclude her without it being a thing. Halfway through the night, she went to the bathroom and was gone a long time. When I checked on her, the TN29 bottle was missing from my dresser and I could smell it through the bathroom door. I said I knew she was stealing my perfume again, but she claimed she was sick and sprayed her sample to hide the smell. At this point, our other friends came to see what was happening. I said I didn't care if she was crapping herself. If she didn't come out immediately, I would toss her purse in the trash so she could dumpster dive until she smelled just like the garbage friend she was. That finally got her to open up, and sure enough, there was my bottle, emptier than before. When pressed, she admitted she was filling up an atomizer and dropped it, spilling the perfume, hence the strong smell. She cried and apologized, saying she didn't think it was that big a deal, she was having a hard time and the smell was comforting. She didn't think I would miss just a little, etc., etc. While our friends agree that what she did was wrong, they're fixated on the idea that she's struggling. Trauma and addiction can make people act up and say I'm a hypocrite if I don't forgive her. Personally, I just think she wanted my TN29 because it has sentimental value and is using addiction and trauma to manipulate our friends. Am I the jerk? Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to get as much of a response as it has, and I want to say thank you to everyone who's commented. Even if I haven't replied, I'm reading everything and it's helped me make some important decisions. First, I'm cutting not just Bethany, but everyone in this friend group out of my life and looking for a new recovery support group to attend. I feel, and the responses here have confirmed, that Bethany's behavior is manipulative and that she's been doing what a lot of people who don't want to take accountability for their bad behavior do, and twisting recovery and therapy speak and concepts to suit her purpose. I, like many addicts, did plenty of toxic stuff when I was at my worst. I hurt people and some of them will never forgive me for that. This is extremely painful. I was really sick at the time, and there are days where it feels really unfair, but it's not the responsibility of the people I hurt to swallow their pain to make me feel better, just like it's not my job to swallow mine to appease Bethany and our friends. I've been putting in the work for over 2 years now, and part of that work is accepting that I was crappy, and people aren't obligated to forgive me. I don't want to be around people whose idea of recovery doesn't acknowledge every part of that equation. I don't want to be around people who are willing to enable each other. Second, I'm 99% sure that Bethany has some kind of untreated mental illness on top of her addiction issues, and that's the root of her behavior. She needs help, but that help isn't going to come from me forgiving her and keeping her in my life when she's repeatedly demonstrated no willingness to change. Our friends giving her endless passes for bad behavior also isn't going to help her, and furthermore, it's not going to help them if they are too far under her spell to see that. That's really unfortunate. But I'm not going to drown while trying to force them to put on their own life preservers. Third, with all that said, addiction is an illness. It's not a moral failing and it doesn't inherently make you a bad person. The way people talk about addicts and addiction can be pretty disheartening to read, especially as someone in recovery, and I'd ask people to remember that everyone in this story, including Bethany, is still a human being. I don't forgive her for stealing my perfume, or for lying, or for manipulating our friends and trying to manipulate me, but I do acknowledge that whatever's driving her, she's not behaving like this because she's happy and healthy. I hope at some point she gets the help she needs so she's no longer hurting herself and others around her. Thanks to everyone who's replied. This has been kind of overwhelming, but your words have helped me a lot. Well, we kind of had like a deep dive right at the end there, kind of about the psychology and really I think the direction of what a majority of people would say as far as the jerk or not the jerk. To be fair, I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to rock the boat. I don't want to make people upset. I don't want to feel like a burden or overbearing or judgy or really anything of the sort, and that's a me problem, so I might have been susceptible to that kind of manipulation. That said, I have a lot of respect for OP being able to stand their ground here and know that it's the right thing to just cut this friend off. I think it's the right decision, but depending on the friend and the history, it might be pretty hard for a person like me to make that decision. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.